for this country's minority communities, and they targeted what they call the responsible Negro community so that they could drive a wedge between the black nationalist groups and the responsible Negro groups. And basically, we can see the beginning of COINTELPRO in a document that was written in 1919 by J. Edgar Hoover. Yes, he was around even in 1919 doing dirty work on behalf of the United States government. And when I say on behalf of the United States government, let me make it clear that ordinarily, as you talk about the constitutional republic that we have, the United States government is supposed to be a reflection of the will of the American people, but it is not so. And in some cases, and in this case in particular, when I say the United States government, I mean a small little cabal of people who have control over the reins of power and able to wield influence in ways that they shouldn't be able to because they are not necessarily elected or appointed to anything. Now, with that having been said, J. Edgar Hoover in October of 1919 noticed that Marcus Garvey, quote, excited the Negroes. And as a result of this ability that Marcus Garvey had to excite the Negroes, he had to be targeted. And he was targeted with putting a paid informant who also was black in his coterie. And eventually Marcus Garvey was deported unjustly on trumped up charges. That's the kind of thing that is now permissible under the Patriot Act. It's an unethical kind of behavior, but the Patriot Act allows the United States government, under this excuse of fighting the war on terror, a war against terrorism, to basically become terrorists. The COINTELPRO program, the counterintelligence program, as operated by J. Edgar Hoover, also used the media of the day in order to shape the ideas of the American public at large against these organizations and the individuals who led them. And so we shouldn't be surprised to see that the United States government is paying journalists to write their stories, paying to establish organizations that promulgate these deceptions, basically. And perhaps most tellingly, the founding document of the COINTELPRO paper said that the FBI's goal was to misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize these organizations and the leaders of these organizations. So that also meant telling lies on people, disrupting their marriages. It also meant snooping into their bank accounts, their medical records. It meant breaking into their homes and looking at what kinds of activities were in their personal papers. So we shouldn't be surprised if we have those sneak and peek provisions that are carried out today, because they're now legal because of the Patriot Act, or snooping into one's medical records or financial transactions, all legal now because of the Patriot Act. At a time when these activities were illegal, from the early 1900s all the way up to the 1960s and the 1970s in particular, especially intensifying during the rise of the anti-Vietnam War movement. It was Senator Frank Church who made these papers and made these behaviors known to the American people, and he called them un-American, and he called them illegal. Now they are most American, and they are most legal because of the Patriot Act. Well, certain people have never had American law applied to them. And so I would say that the whole construct is bogus to start with. Dr. Martin Luther King was certainly not a terrorist, but he was viewed as such. Nelson Mandela was not a terrorist, but he was viewed as such. And so Dr. Martin Luther King had to be neutralized. That's not my language. That's not my word. That's not my term. The FBI used that term when they said that they had to neutralize the leaders of these organizations. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was treated during his day in an illegal manner, but he was treated as today's terrorist. Honestly, the reason you exist is because of the failures of the media. And we have to make that very clear. The American people, the inquisitive American people, and those who are interested in finding out answers to their questions have turned to alternative media, have turned to the internet, have turned to citizen activists who are doing the same thing. They grab a camera and they go out and they seek the truth. And then when they put their newfound production skills together, they tell us the truth. And so that's how Loose Change even came to exist, because you couldn't count on CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, CNN, UPN, WB, BET, MTV, VH1. You couldn't count on them to tell us the truth. And so you had to take it upon yourself to tell the American people the truth. First of all, for yourself, to tell yourself the truth, to inform yourself of the truth. And then, once learning the truth, you felt compelled to tell other people the truth, to share that truth. I can tell you, as someone operating in the political milieu, that perhaps the most important question that remains unanswered is, who are we? Well, I think litigation, if the issue is subpoena power, litigation is one way to deal with that. Obviously, we've been through the congressional route, and as Congress is currently constituted, that's not going to work. So, again, what we now know is because of people power. And I think we have to go back to people power. The last bill that I introduced during my previous tenure in Congress, during 2002, was a piece of legislation that would have allowed the family members to participate in the Victims' Compensation Fund and not lose their ability to sue. It is clear to me that the construction of, or the construct of the Victim Compensation Fund was to quash the ability of the family members to have that necessary subpoena power to get at the truth. So litigation is always an answer. But what we've learned from the COINTELPRO experience is that in order to have successful litigation, you've got to have good lawyers. And what the counterintelligence program sought to do was to stymie legal actions by stacking the deck with bad attorneys.